So, what you have heard in the Exponential Entrepreneur podcast until now are lessons from RJon Robins, Alejandra Leibovich, Erika Ferenczi, and me, Erika Ferenczi. But now, in the next episodes, you will hear from some of our clients and people that we have been working for a few years with. All of them ambitious entrepreneurs who understand that exponential business growth isn't achieved through traditional business tactics alone, but through the foundational personal and leadership development that creates that internal capacity in the human being to scale companies beyond conventional limits. All of these people have taken those lessons and put them into action, creating amazing results for their businesses.
You're listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur podcast. This is the podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs who understand that exponential business growth isn't achieved through traditional business tactics alone, but through personal development, the ultimate leverage point to scale businesses beyond conventional limits. Hosted by Erika Ferenczi, featuring lessons from the Practical, Profitable Mindset program, created by RJon Robins, Alejandra Leibovich, Erika and Oscar Ferenczi. And here's your host, Erika Ferenczi.
So today we have Melinda Grimaldi, CEO and managing attorney of Grimaldi Law Firm and the Closers Title Insurance Agency in Florida. Melinda helps families build and protect their money and real estate, their children, and their legacy through her real estate and estate planning business. But her work goes way beyond legal documents. I know her and I have known her for many, many years. And I know that she is deeply passionate about mindset, leadership, personal development, especially when it relates to financial growth and freedom. Like she's one of us. Melinda built and rebuilt her firm while raising a family with an intentional mindset. I remember having a conversation with her when she was pregnant with her second child. It's been an amazing journey. You will hear from her today and you will learn how she transformed not only her business, but also how she leads, how she lives, and how she shows up every day for herself and her children. Today, she not only has a scalable business, but enjoys more and more true time freedom with her family. And the most important thing, she measures success by impact, alignment, and peace, not only revenue. Melinda, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as you know, in the Exponential Entrepreneur, we want to have meaningful conversations with people who are movers and shakers and who are using personal development and leadership as part of their secret sauce of how to transform things fast. So would you like to share, I don't know, in 2 or 3 minutes, if you can, a little bit of your story of how it began and how did you decide to open your own business? And then a little bit of the trajectory of growth until now?
Sure. So since I was a child, I always knew I wanted to be my own boss. So that's how it started. I was probably 8 when I said it the first time. And I came from a family of entrepreneurs. And I went to law school thinking I'm going to take care of the family business. But ultimately, I really ended up opening my own firm and my own practice. But even though I came from a family of entrepreneurs, there was no real training, coaching, and guidance for me as to how to operate a law firm or a business really in a very efficient way, a scalable way. So that led me to HTM. And, you know, my revenue at that time was, I don't even remember, that was probably 8 years ago, like $250,000, $400,000. And I'm multiple times that right now, many multiple times that right now. But when I started, you know, on this business journey, I really didn't touch on mindset at all because I thought I had a good mindset. I'm confident. I thought I could, you know, I deserve it. I came from a good family and I didn't have those things that I would hear about when the challenges people were having. And so I kind of left it to the side and I did all my homework, but I really didn't see the growth until I started working on my mindset.
What year was when you started working on your mindset?
Probably like 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it all stemmed from a mini burnout episode that I had. I was very tired. I was overworked. all self-imposed, and found myself kind of venting in our HTM group. And RJon had mentioned that's a mindset thing. You need a mastermind, you need something. And that led me to our Unleash the Beast, which then led me to PPM. And then, everything kind of fell. Here we are.
Yeah. And let me just, for the audience, give them a little bit of context. So
Sure.
HTM is how to manage a small law firm, which we mentioned in the episodes. And it is one of the largest companies in the United States where we help lawyers build sustainable businesses. If you want to hear anything about it, you can go to howtomanageasmalllawfirm.com. And she mentioned PPM. That's a program that you are aware of. She mentioned this other thing that is Unleash the Beast, and it's just another workshop that we do with some of our clients, and that's what it is. I'm sorry that I interrupted you. I just wanted to give people context. Okay, so you had a little bit of a meltdown, self-imposed, and that's when you decided, you know what, I need to do something. And that's when you went to that Unleash the Beast workshop that we did. I remember you there was that at the Fort Lauderdale, right? We were doing that in Fort Lauderdale. Okay. And then what happened after? Like, what transformation changes did you make?
It was like one little thing here, one little thing there. It wasn't really massive, big changes in my day-to-day. It was like a bunch of little refinements. But I think one of the biggest things is just the awareness and not being so reactive, and being more aware of how I was showing up to things, and not behaving like the bottom was going to fall out all the time. That was, I think, one of the things you told me is things are good. Like, you don't have to act like the Chicken Little, the sky is falling all the time. And so that was a big thing for me, because I had a big fear of failure, a big fear of not performing, a fear of making a mistake. And so that really kept me just in overdrive all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before personal development, mindset, leadership, right? We're always talking about those almost interchangeable words. What did running your practice before that felt like?
I had the Monday scaries all the time. I just would always have something in the pit of my stomach that made me feel very uncomfortable. Like, something's going to go wrong, or not knowing what to expect. I was behaving very reactively to everything. And so I think that's one of the biggest things. And then, if something were to go wrong, and that's life, things happen, right? We make mistakes. We're human. We have issues with employees. We have issues in our lives, our personal lives, our business. And it was just, it tore me up each little time. And so it was I tortured myself. That's the best way, of just how I would behave.
What I'm hearing you say is that you were growing this business and you were making, very good progress, but it was hard and sometimes excruciating and anxiety driven and stress driven. And
yes,
I'm hearing that correct? Yes.
Yeah.
So you were doing all of this and not really enjoying the journey of the process.
Yes.
And how is it now?
Well, now my approach to life's issues is very different, right? Now I learn from my mistakes. I always look for the lesson, right, of what we're going through. And just by reframing how I look at the day-to-day really helped me just show up differently. It's not the same waiting for the balls to drop or the apples to fall off the tree. I'm collecting them when I intentionally decide. I was working way too much before. I wasn't able to shut off because I was always afraid something was going to happen. So I always had my phone on. I always had my messengers on. I always had my emails turned on and pinging me. And now I created boundaries for myself so that I could show up better for myself and for my kids. And so life just has so much more joy.
That is so awesome. And do you think that your family have they, I know you have your children, but they are small children, but have they noticed a change in you and how you react and who you are?
I think so, but they were so little, in the before time. So I don't know how much they remember, but I think that, they feel that I'm present and I'm involved and I'm available when they need me. And so that's really important for me. My husband definitely sees a change in my overall being and approach to life. So that's been very helpful for my marriage as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
What would be the biggest, or the top 2 or 3 concepts or lessons that when applied, mindset lessons, personal development lessons that when applied, would you say made one of the biggest difference in your particular situation? So the audience can hear from you and hopefully be inspired to try those things.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lessons I had was reacting versus choosing how I show up.
Mm-hmm.
Bad things happen, mistakes happen, problems arise in business and in life. They're always going to happen. But we can choose how we react to things. We can pause and not have to have this, we talk about the levels of energy, right? We don't have to come from a place of fear or anxiety or anger and choose how we want to show up with my team, how I show up with my kids, even when things don't go my way. And that takes practice. And some days, I'm better than others.
What do you say to yourself so you can do that?
I don't know if I say it as much as I am more aware now. So I do catch myself still at times reacting. I'm human. But I catch myself so much quicker and I'm able to redirect, how I perceive something or how I behave or how I speak or what I do based on that awareness. Mm-hmm. I was running really fast before. And even though I'm super busy still, I'm operating at a different pace in my mind. In that muscle has been exercising every day with you guys on PPM. So,
right. That's the question that I wanted to ask after what you just mentioned is like, to which extent do you believe, or how do you believe that having that daily reminder, right? That daily touch point of mindset and reflection and awareness with PPM, Practical Profitable Mindset Program, has that made a difference for you?
So I see your mindset, working on your mindset is like going to the gym and working on your muscles. You could stop for a little bit and you come back and you have muscle memory, but if you stop for too long, you're starting over. And just how many of us say we want to be strong when we get older to make sure that if you fall, you recover and like you're strong and you're healthy as you age. That for me, when I think of my mindset, that in the building that muscle is so we're ready for life's challenges because the challenges will come. And so by constantly reflecting on how, our the way we look at things or the way we act or what's important to us, it allows us to just keep slowly working on it. So when we do get life's curveballs, we're able to handle it in a much better way. And I experienced that this year with the shakedown lawsuit that I had. I was very primed for what happened. And the whole time I was sued by someone who was just trying to make some money. And in the end, it went away very quickly. But there was a period of time that it was almost like I felt like it was a test to see, well, how much have you learned, Melinda? And so I focused on what I could control. And I still showed up in the right way for my kids during the mess. And I was able to make the most money I've ever did last year in that month that I was going through, because I'm like, I'm not going to let this derail me. I'm going to focus on what I can control. I'm going to have positive thoughts as to where the outcome of this whole situation. And I, not jokingly, but I said to my husband, we're going to make this go away with a phone call. And he thought it was crazy. And in the end, it wasn't just a phone call. There was a lot of preparation that led up to it, but it went away with a phone call. And so, we were able to really leave it mostly unscathed. And I have a lot to thank to all the work that I put into my mindset and all the resources you guys provided to be aware that this is even a thing for my, because otherwise it probably would have been a real disaster.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I still remember when that happened, and then you reaching out and it's like, this is a situation. How can I approach this, right? In order to calm myself down and really think about the solution and et cetera, et cetera. And, I'm so glad that then you called, like, I don't know, a week later or something like that. I said, it's resolved. It's gone. Right. And, that's phenomenal. This is really phenomenal. I have a question.
Yes.
How old were you when you opened your firm the very first time?
I think I was like 26.
So right out of law school?
Right out of law school. I graduated in the recession. No one was hiring. And so I was like, well, let's just do it now then. And that's how it started. Yeah.
And in those years, like, I'm just trying to think about a person that might be in that stage, right? 26, 30, 32, whatever, but they are trying to open their own business. They're going through the initial stages. I do remember, like I said at the beginning, being on the phone with you. I think you were pregnant with your second child, or you just had your second child, and it was a very challenging time.
Yes.
What would you say to an entrepreneur that is just starting their own business, or maybe a couple of years, maybe they're making, I don't know, $100,000 or less. And they are struggling a little bit. They're questioning whether they should do this or not. They are wondering if they can really make the money that they need to live a very comfortable and beautiful life. What would you say to them?
Ooh, that's a loaded pep talk.
I know,
there's a lot of pieces.
Take your time. So many people in that situation.
Yeah. And I think, back then, one of the things that I was challenged with is that there was only so much work, but really there's tons of work out there. Coming from a first step place of abundance and saying there's tons of opportunities out there. You just need to go find it. And you're not going to find it behind your desk. You're going to find it out and about and meeting people. And I think that was one of the biggest things to start for any entrepreneur. You can choose to create a wonderful business. It's not going to be easy necessarily, but it can be very, very much worth it, right? Any good things comes with its challenges and the hard work and the grit that you need to put into it. But it's not hard necessarily. I don't like to even think about it as hard. It's just, there's things you got to do to get to where you want to be. And so if it's worth it for you, just stick with it, because it will come if you put the pieces in place. Okay.
Anything else? I'm writing them down so I can ask more questions.
Sure. It's very easy. Early in my business was very easy to say, "Oh, I made this money and I did all these things," but in the business, but really, we create almost an alternate reality when we're talking to ourselves inside about how things are going, and we talk about reality and what is real a lot, and I think that once I was able to look at things without feeling shame about how my business was doing, without feeling judgment for myself, or without comparing myself to others and their stages of growth, I was really able to just see what it is. And once you see where you're at, it's easier to know what you need to do next.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let me see one by one.
Mm-hmm.
You said, it is a lot of work. Sometimes it's a lot of work, and it's true. There's a lot of things that need to be done and set up, and the marketing and the billing and the doing the legal work. It's a lot of moving parts. But I believe that everything and anything that we do is a lot of work, right? So it's a lot of work. And then you said, get out from behind the computer. Or at least that's what I heard. Get out from behind the computer. And that is, I know that's something that we're always talking about in PPM or in our programs, which is, can you speak a little bit about that mindset change that needs to happen? So when you stop seeing yourself as only the lawyer and you really understand that you're an entrepreneur.
I think it goes even further back to not feeling shame or going out there and, speaking what you do, asking for the business, showing up to events, not, speaking engagements on social media. You really just need to show up. And I know that a lot of people have a hard time doing that. And I remember when I first started, I'm like, oh, no one wants to hear, look at this person. They're like always talking about themselves and they're always doing these things. And in the end, you can't go online and if you follow me without seeing something that I'm doing, because if you don't talk about your business, if you don't show up and educate people about what you can do to help them, they'll never know about it. So whether it's social media, a podcast, YouTube, going to networking events, or, and even showing up for your consultations or your sales calls, you have to come with a different energy where it doesn't scare you. And that takes a lot of work sometimes to come from that place.
Mm-hmm. What is scary about that?
I think people are afraid of what others will think.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with your own internal dialogue and self-judgment. So I was very hard on myself.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways I got over it was to stop judging others.
Mm.
If I don't judge others, I ended up being less judgmental to myself. And then ultimately, once I had children, realizing, you should be talking to yourself the same way and being as nice to yourself the same way that you are with your children. I heard that somewhere and that stuck with me. And so I need to be my own biggest fan, right? If not me, then who?
Yeah. That is so big, I think, because I think that any person, especially most people, but especially when you are an overachiever or you have a type A personality, right? Or I don't know, I am just thinking about all of these people. I'm not a lawyer. So all of these people that go to law school, and it's really hard. Like there's so much judgment and there's sometimes shame in like, why are you asking a question that you don't have an answer to? And things like that the environment is not really conducive to this amount of, let's say, having grace with yourself. Yeah, right. It's not conducive to that. It's some even some. I've heard many times that large law firms, like the environment is very cutthroat, and it's just not conducive to what you're talking about. And then people live in this space of anxiety, fear, feeling that no matter what you do is not good enough. And then the littlest mistake is like, what the hell? Like, why do you do this? Right. And being your biggest tyrant. So I really believe that what you're saying is so fundamental. Is there any like one tip that you can, one mindset shift that you can share with the audience as to how, well, you did say, speak to yourself as you speak to children or your children. Like even if you don't have children, you can be gracious. Any other thing that you could pinpoint?
Wow, there's so many things. I think for me, the biggest moment was when I realized I should be focusing on my mindset. I think a lot of people just ignore it or thinks it's frou-frou or whatever. But we're like onions and we have lots of layers. And I think we need to understand our layers and peel them back and understand where we come from. And that leads us to how we show up, because we can't change what we don't know. And so becoming more self-aware of why we do certain things is the first step to changing how we do things. And for me, it's constant little tweaking. But then after a while, you just got to implement and be. And so I'm at a place right now is just, let me just continue to learn and not continue to implement what I've learned and go deeper, because even that, a lesson that I received 2-3 years ago and experienced and learned will show up differently now that I'm a different person. And I need to go back to some of those things.
Yeah.
So don't ignore it. Don't ignore it.
Yeah. I think that, what people need to hear also is that there's a different way People believe that this is the only way, being stressed out, burned out, afraid, some people anxious, struggling, not being able to make a lot of progress. Sometimes we start working with people who have been in business for several years and they have businesses of, I don't know, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million gross revenue a year, but they're absolutely miserable because like you said, they're just in the rat race of doing everything themselves, not having a team and so on and so forth. And I think that it's really important that people know that that doesn't have to be the way. There is another way, right? And I think what I'm hearing from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that a big part of that change of finding the other way is going through this personal development route, by changing your mindset.
Yeah. And one thing I didn't mention earlier, but I feel like I need to share it, it keeps like popping up, was the amount of mom guilt that I had in the beginning. It was torturous to me.
Yeah.
I would show up to work and feel guilty I'm not with my kids. I would be with my kids and feel like, oh my goodness, I have so much to do, and feel like I'm not doing enough. And it was a constant feeling of not doing enough. That I was struggling with for many, many years. And I think only once I was able to get to the place where I feel like I'm enough, and I choose when I choose to be in mom mode, I choose to be there and be very intentional. And when I choose to be in boss mode, for lack of a better word, I choose to be there, or lawyer mode. That's the energy and I choose it. And I'm not just reacting and doing both poorly at the same time. Yeah. And so deciding how we're going to show up, it doesn't have to be guilt driven and hard and messy in that way.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that no matter what you do, you still felt like you were coming short.
Yeah.
And that's not fun. Okay. One more question.
Yes.
How did you doing this mindset work, this personal development work, how did it change your team? The way that you lead the team, the way that you manage, the way that your team operates? Like, what is the biggest difference that you saw in building a team?
Yeah. I think that as a business owner, the building and leading and managing and hiring the team is one of the hardest parts. And when you're very reactive and not mindful of what you're doing or saying, and just lashing it out because you're frustrated or feel overwhelmed, or someone made a mistake or you made a mistake, and then it's like the world is over, the quality team members are not going to stay. Mm-hmm. And so it took me even longer for that to show up in my work life, as it's like the second level of development for me. But now that I'm there, and I, will prevent myself from saying things or doing things, and choosing how to say it and choosing when to say things, allows for it to make for a better team, and to come from a place of let's learn from our mistakes. And then also from a place of leadership, on the leadership side, everyone on my team knows we don't speak negatively about things. We choose our words, how we describe things. Even in personal life, we show up and give gratitude every Thursday morning on a call together. And so I have found little ways to implement that and to into how, teaching them a little bit on how to show up. And I think that's pretty cool too.
That is super cool. That is super cool because, sometimes I can only imagine that there's some people that might be hearing this and judging it, right? Like, you give gratitude, like, what? That's whatever they're going to say. And it is so interesting because one of the things that we are always talking about is a human being can't feel two conflictive emotions at the same time, right? So you cannot be feeling anger or frustration or resentment or guilt, and at the same time feel gratitude and happiness and joy. So I just want everybody to hear that the fact that the leader of the team is making an intentional choice to open up for these types of conversations, like what are you grateful for? Just puts people on a different mindset. And, I remember, I'll take a super quick story. We hired, in this very large company, we hired this very expensive consultant from one of the largest consulting firms. And I remember that one of the things that they did, this is not the only thing, but one of the things that they did is when we were on a meeting, on a group meeting, they always said the first 5 minutes, we're going to talk about your personal celebrations. Like what has gone amazing or what are you grateful for in your personal life? And we would go around the room, right? And this was a board meeting, like quarterly strategic meeting, things like that. And I promise you, at the end of the 5 minutes, we didn't spend 30 hours on that one, but 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever, like we all related differently because now we are not only the director of this or the manager of that or the owner of the other, but now you're a human being that has children and lives. And that really brings the team together. Would you like to say anything about that or anything else as we close up the interview?
With that, as a leader, you start to learn things about your team as well to help support them, to help understand where they're coming from, and to be able to help them achieve their goals or whatever they're trying to accomplish. Those things come out in those kind of conversations. And you could use those tidbits to help develop or to help support your team member as they're going through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do that, also you create a stronger culture, right? You could create cohesiveness with the team, and then the team is happy to go to work, which is a big difference. Have you ever encountered that any of your team members or employees say to you something along the lines of, I am choosing to work here because I like it, because I like the people, because whatever? Has it ever happened?
Yeah, that happened actually. I think we were doing an exercise where we had to interview our team, some of our top players, and last year I think it was, and I got a lot of that feedback. Like I love my coworkers, I love working here, I love what we do, and so that was really cool because for me, that didn't just start naturally. That took a lot of evolutions.
And intentionality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Melinda, thank you so very much. Would you like to leave anyone with any last thoughts?
Last thoughts is, a little bit at a time, you can really create a life that you enjoy, that can be a lot more balanced, no more Monday scaries as you build your business, and come from a place of abundance. So one step at a time, you can really recreate yourself. You're not stuck where you are. So I just leave that to you, and you can do it if you want to. And other than that, you could find me on Instagram. I'm the Closer ESQ or Grimaldi Law Firm, and wish you all well.
Thank you so very much for being with us today. I don't know why right now I'm having this kind of visual. I'm remembering like sometimes in some of our calls, like you take the calls from the golf course, right? And just say, I'm just taking the day and I am just spending with my family or with my kids or with myself, doing something amazing for myself. And I just want to say how inspiring that is for everyone, and to remind everyone that is listening to the show that this could be your life, right? And you don't have to live it to the extent that you're struggling a little bit with this or the other, which we all struggle at different times. But there's another way. And that way is when we really understand that our growth and our results are not going to come only for tactics alone, but from this really foundational personal development and leadership development that will then create the capacity inside of you to scale businesses, teams, and your income, to very unconventional limits. So thank you so much for being with us, Melinda. And until next time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. We encourage you to take action on it today. Share what you've learned with another entrepreneur. Sign up for our newsletter to get bonus content you won't get anywhere else at exponentialentrepreneur.com, and subscribe to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast to receive the next episode. Until next time, keep breaking through limiting beliefs and growing exponentially.